Okay, this is my third time trying this video recording. I've with YouTube is if you've done videos, you cannot pause it and then start it over or go from where you left off. So I appreciate it takes a lot to go into these videos sometimes. So this video I want to talk about timelines. I want to talk about timelines, the dark agenda. I want to talk about galactic beings. I'm going to try to get it all in under 20 minutes. I'll try my best. I ramble sometimes, so I apologize. Please form your own opinion. If it resonates with you, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. No big deal. I don't expect this to resonate with everyone, obviously. Everybody has their own beliefs. Your beliefs create your reality. Uh, Also, if you like the video, please subscribe if you want to continue receiving notifications when new videos come out. And also, if you like the video, send comments. I appreciate also the feedback and the uh, positive affirmations from people because it means a lot to me. I'm very humbled by that. I'm trying to reach as many as I can. Okay, so let's go into this. So, timelines. And many of you probably have seen what, let's say, heard, oh, we're on another timeline, or this timeline has collapsed. So many light workers, spiritual workers have written on websites, ascension websites, awakening websites, whatever you want to call them, about timelines. Okay, so timeline is like a specific path humanity is going down. Now, we have all agreed quite some time ago to go on this path of ascension. So we are on that part of that timeline. However, the path that we go to get there can vary, can be different. It's based on humanity's consciousness, it's based on their beliefs, it's based on the events that happen. So that's why I say humanity, we are all creator beings because we are. We create our reality. So based on events, it triggers more beliefs or changes people's beliefs, and then that creates a shift in the timeline. So those are what timelines are. Now the interesting thing, this goes into the dark's agenda. The dark, or you can call them, people call them so many names, you can call them the 1% group, and not all of them, just many of them though. You can call them the cabal, you can call them the Illuminati, you can call them whatever you want to call them. It's your choice. But they're all on the same kind of path. They want and have wanted to create a new world order. And I'm sure you've heard of this term. A new world order is a how do I say, more of a like a socialism gone on, socialism on steroids. It's very, very, very extreme. There are a group of, and I've seen these groups. A group, I watched a video that was posted once on, and I'll have to try to find the video. I don't know if I can find it again. It was just something I happened to come across on YouTube, but somebody was showing a video of these wealthy one percenters who were meeting in, I believe, Saudi Arabia. I don't remember, one of the Middle Eastern countries, and they were all meeting. And these were people, billionaires from all around the world, who were talking about wanting to take the world in their own hands, away from governments. And they do this by money. Obviously, money has controlled too many people for too long. So the agenda, and it's very similar to, if you ever read, and I've quoted this many times, the book 1984 by George Orwell. It was a book published in 1948, which takes place in the future. The story does. The story takes place in 1984. And in the book, it's a very extreme socialist society. the interesting thing in that, and it's a very scary scenario, because basically they have this group who takes over. I won't go into all the details, but basically, many of the events that are happening right now across the world with the fires, the pushing people out of their homes, especially in rural areas, pushing people into the cities. That's exactly what happened in this book. So it's very similar. It's pushing people into cities where they can be controlled easier. They're also used brainwashing in this book, which we know that happens all the time with the media, with news articles. It happens with a lot with the news media, especially politicians. And so what happens is the other thing part of this is the technology that's involved into, I would say, more keep the masses of people in kind of a low vibration, and they do this purposely to create separateness. It creates division, and that's how they can control. They control by fear. So they create wars, which are man-made, which we know obviously, but wars are created on purpose to create division. It's to create more fear. Terrorism is created the same way. It's created by fear, to get the masses into fear. And so if you look at it, it is a scare tactic. It is a scare, and many of these wealthy were funding these terrorist groups, and funding the war. Some of these wealthy were funding on both sides. They were supplying, back in World War II, there were wealthy who were supplying weapons to both sides. So anyway, so back to the timeline thing. So when we head down in these events, kind of, and the elite want a world domination. They want things to collapse. They want destruction. And that's, like I said, again, to push people into a corner, push them into where they can be controlled. And they're really ramping up things. Now, a little bit of history. There have been 5 other past civilizations. Lemuria, there's Atlantis, were around at the same time, but there are other civilizations. And each time, the civilization had an opportunity to go through ascension as well with the planet. Now, it ended up in destruction, basically. So what happened is the civilization was wiped out. Humanity, the planet was reseeded. And what I mean by that is it's reseeded by new humans. Now the last, so I'm going to go back to a little bit of, I'm going to try to do my best here, so I apologize. Keep it under as much as I can, 20 minutes. So the dark have been around for centuries, millennia. They have been many of the same, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, they have manipulated, they've worked with a negative ET groups, or negative alien groups, whatever you want to call them. They've worked with these groups. They've had the technology from these groups, and they've been manipulated and controlled. So these same people have been reincarnated over and over, knowing past. How would I want to go about this? They know, they've known past history. Okay, so they've known how to manipulate people, and they have worked with these negative ETs, which many of know are the draconians, reptilians. Not all are negative, obviously, but there are many that are. So the I had talked about the Matrix. The Matrix was created around the Earth to kind of trap people into this illusion that we're in. It's also created people reincarnated in the karmic cycle, reincarnated over and over, because these negative beings, ETs, need the negative energy from humanity to survive. They feed off that energy, okay? Just like in the higher dimensions, the benevolent beings feed off the light energy, okay? So when you're in the physical plane, though, like this, the third, fourth dimension, you actually feed off of both. You have an option. That's why it's duality, polarity. You can use the energy. It's just energy, basically. So you can call it negative or positive if you want to make a distinct separation. It just depends on how you use that energy. So you can use that energy for negativity, as we call it, or positivity, okay? So the dark has manipulated this, and they've done this many times over other past civilizations. So when certain events happen, it creates that timeline, gets locked in. However, it can change. And it has changed several times. There have been times where we were supposed to go through, as Nostradamus had predicted, like a nuclear war. I guarantee that's not going to happen. It won't happen. The galactic benevolent beings will not allow that to happen, because when there is a nuclear warhead or nuclear weapon that goes off, it affects all dimensions. Okay, so it affects not just this dimension, but it will affect other parallel dimensions existing, and it can destroy other parallel dimensions. Okay, because the nuclear energy is not specific to one dimension. So anyway, that's a little bit of history on that. So the dark have manipulated. When this civilization came in this timeline, this civilization we are now, they were created as, how do I say? They were had their 12-strand DNA. Okay, so people had their abilities like telepathy, teleportation, telekinesis. Humanity had that, and this was probably about 30,000 years ago. Okay, and what happened was, after that civilization passed, died, destroyed itself, that back then when Atlantis sunk, Lemuria, humanity was created again, and their DNA was messed with from these draconians, because they're very good at manipulating DNA. So they took the 10 strands of the DNA and they made them maybe more or less dormant. So that's how we came up with 2 strands DNA. Because humanity should be able to live easily 800 to 1,000 years. You should be able to live to that length of time. We should also have our full abilities like telepathy and teleportation, telekinesis, those things. Okay, so we should each have those abilities, but because those 10 strands were blocked, we lost those abilities. That's why people get sick. That's why people a good reason why people get sick, why people die early, as we consider early in their 80s, average 80 years old or 85 years old. So this is one of the reasons. Now, you can, because of the light frequencies coming into the planet, it has opened up more of our DNA. It has unlocked those, because the light energy is very powerful. It's source energy. It's God. It's creator energy. It's very powerful. We are going through right now some big shifts, big cosmic rays from our sun, and it's filled with creator source energy, light energy, and this is changing. So if you felt kind of physical achiness, things. Not say you obviously could have the flu or you could be sick or that. But if you're just, a lot of people are experiencing the kind of aches and pains. They're experiencing hypersensitivity, moods, emotions are high. It's because the frequency of the light as the energy is very strong right now. Ground yourself, be out in nature, eat protein foods high in protein, because that will help ground you as well. Okay, so going into the manipulation by the dark have used and is using. They fill the airwaves. Obviously, we got electricity all around us. We got high frequency, we got microwaves, we got cell phone towers, and now they want to do 5G, which is very, very bad. And I'll explain that in a minute. So they use weaponry like EMFs, which is electromagnetic frequencies. We are electromagnetic frequency ourselves. So when they use these type of energies out there in the cell phone towers, it hits us. It actually damages our own electromagnetic energy that naturally occurs around us. CERN is another one in Switzerland. The Hadron Collider, excuse me, is very low density. It's not good. I don't care what anybody says, but they want to try to replicate a black hole. Okay, think about what that would happen if they were to create a black hole at CERN. We would all be gone. It would pull us right into this. So you can see, I will argue with anybody, it's not for the betterment of humanity. Okay. So the other thing I do want to touch upon is, I'm trying to get as much as I can here. When timelines, this goes back to the timelines, and I'll go in a little bit more. Well, first I'll go into 5G. So 5G is just trying to be pushed worldwide. Okay, 5G is dangerous, because what happens is, rather than one cell phone tower which pushes out the waves, it spreads it out, so it kind of disperses that frequency, and so it kind of weakens it as it further gets out. 5G are little like antenna things that are put on. They put millions of these out. They're little antenna things that get put on every light pole, every corner, and instead of the normal about 30 hertz average, which is where the cell towers put out 30 hertz, it puts out over 300 hertz, sometimes up to 800 hertz frequency, which is very harmful for our bodies. It can cause cell deterioration, can cause brain cancer, it can cause lots of issues. So the telecom companies, cell phone companies are pushing this, saying, oh, it's under the federal standards, it's okay, it's safe. Yeah, of course they're going to say that, because they want more money. So there have been over 215 scientists have come out against this, say we should do more testing on it before you put it out to the people. So this is part of this whole agenda the elite want to do. There are devices. I'm not trying to put anybody in a scare to scare people, but I want to. People need to be aware of this. Okay, so you have to practice letting go of fear. You have to practice creating your reality by your beliefs. So when we get into these timelines, now I'll go back into this real quick. When we get into these timelines, there many. What happens is every year we come through. Okay, there's holidays, right? We got Christmas, we got Hanukkah. There's all. It depends on what your beliefs are. There's Halloween, Thanksgiving, here in the northern hemisphere in the United States. I grew up celebrating the Halloween, Easter, the Christian holidays, Christmas, these holidays. So what happens is, when humanity, and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with celebrating these. That's not what I'm saying, before people go into those thoughts. So when humanity goes into those and creates that, what happens is it keeps that timeline stuck in that energy. Okay, so what happens is it creates more of the same, so things don't change. All right, so it how do I want to say, so because your beliefs create the reality, so it creates the same thing over and over every year after year, okay, without things really changing. But because more people are awakening now, it's changing the energy, it's changing the shift in people's beliefs, it's changing people's perceptions of what holidays and religion is and that. So I just wanted to go kind of touch upon that. I'm trying to do as much as I can. I'm going to just cover a couple more things here because I'm already over the 20-minute mark. Again, like I said, I talk a lot. I will go over it. I want to really touch upon this. Very important. So going back to the timeline thing, the manipulation, the money system has been just created as a manipulation. It is created to obviously create slaves. We are slaves to money because you need money to buy products, you need money to survive, you need money to pay your rent, you need to pay all that. And the elites know this. The elites control the top 1%, control like 85% of the, and I'm just quoting this, 85% of the world's wealth. So they, every year they get more and more wealthy because they take people, and so that's my point. The money is a control mechanism for these people. We will see collapse of this dimension. We will see, we will see collapse of these old systems. They will, because people are awakening. People are realizing, and they're getting tired of it. People are tired of the corruption. People are tired of the the purposely created wars or purposely created fires that have been set in California. Some of them they've used weaponry to create. I've watched videos of amateur videos who people showing like lasers coming down into California, starting these fires. So they're purposely done. And then PG&E, which is, if you don't know, PG&E is Pacific Gas and Electric. I used to have them when I lived in Oregon, in Portland, and they kind of monopolized the West Coast. And they were ran by one of the really very elite Rothschild family, kind of owned that. And so they've been shutting the power off to these people. You know, last time I looked, I think there was over 2 million people without power out there. So it's kind of crazy and chaotic. So that shifts our timeline. That all shifts how we're going to go down. The faster this speeds up, the faster we can shift and ascend. Now, I want to go into this because this is very important. We have, okay, and I've touched upon this before. I'm a very big advocate for our galactic family. Very big advocate. I've had many experiences personally with higher dimensional beings, with physical benevolent ETs. I've had experiences with Dracos or reptilians. I've had those experiences too. And we have to let go of that fear because, first of all, I'll explain something quick. Our soul is so big that our soul cannot fit its entirety in this physical body that we're using. Okay. So what happened is we each have a higher aspect of ourselves in a higher dimension. Whether you're, let's say, some of the races I've talked about before, Palladian, Arcturian, Syrian, Lyran, there's the feline race, there's a lot of, I can go on, the Antarians, there's many different races. So what happened was many of the higher dimensional beings, which is us, actually, took part of their consciousness and wanted to experience the duality. So they took part of the consciousness. When you're in a higher dimension, you're able to split your consciousness to multiple lives in the physical, okay? So you can experience, and really it's just an experience. So we each have a higher aspect of ourselves that's Palladian, like I said, Arcturian, Lyran, Syrian, whatever it is. We all have that, every one of us. However, there are some that have come right directly from Source, who never had any other lives. But we each have a higher aspect of ourselves, okay? So I've watched videos, and this is just other people's beliefs and their opinions, and that's okay. A lot of people think if the Galactics show up or the ETs show up, they're going to save us. Well, yes, they're here to help us because they are us. And I will repeat this over and over to those people, that our higher selves are ET galactic beings. Okay? They are. You can call them angels. You can call them galactic, ETs, extraterrestrials. You can call them whatever. But they are us, period. Okay? They are here to help. When they will show themselves, they will come down, they will be seen. When humanity's consciousness gets to a certain point where majority of people reach that point, which we're really close to now, of accepting extraterrestrials and wanting them to show themselves, they will show themselves. They will come. They will help. They have been helping for millennia. They have been helping. They prevent nuclear wars from happening. They will not allow that to happen. We will not allow ourselves to destroy ourselves, okay? Because they are us. I will repeat that. They are us. Because I've watched videos where people say that the ETs are nothing, causing problems, causing issues, that they're not here to save us. Well, then who are, my question is, then who are they? And like I said, that's their beliefs. That's okay. But they are us from my experience, as well as you can, like I said, read Dolores Cannon. Always have said that in her books. They are us. We are them. So my higher self is Palladian, a Palladian male, and I've seen him. He's around a lot. I've communicated with him many times. I've also been part of Arcturian. I've communicated many times with them. They are my higher self. I belong in their consciousness, okay? So they're guiding. So many of your guides can be angels, they can be Palladians, they can be Arcturians, Syrians, whatever, okay? Now, what else I want to talk about here? I just want to check my notes here because I'm reaching already almost 30-minute mark here. So anyway, so that's why I wanted to touch on. I really don't have much other things to touch on. I wanted to discuss the timelines was the big thing, the manipulation by the dark using these technologies against humanity because they want humanity in a more controllable population, so it's easier for them to control. Because 7 billion people is a little bit too much for them to control. So they're using all kinds of negative technology, negative frequencies. The faster we can be comfortable with our galactic selves coming down, the faster it will happen. The faster these manipulators, dark elites, or whatever, will be gone. They will be gone. They have had this chance to ascend and shift, and they would rather cause destruction and control and not give up their power. So what will end up happening is many of them will be removed. They will die. They will actually be many of them will be brought back to source level to be recycled. Their soul will basically be used for other energy. They could not exist. Many of them will have to repeat many lifetimes. I will go into, I'm not going to discuss this now. I'm going to try to do another video. I'm going to write it down before I forget, but about the different, I'm seeing such a different separation between groups of people on this planet now. And then I'll go into that next time, and I'll go into what the upliftment means, how our physical bodies will adjust and how it will transform our physical bodies, and explain the difference of that. So I appreciate everybody for watching my videos. I'm greatly humbled by your attention. Again, I'm sorry this is kind of a long video, but like I said, thank you very much. Love you all. Thanks for your support. Until next time, God bless.